Hello, welcome. We are a group of suicide widows. We met in a online grief group, and we three share that we are all parents, and we are all working with our children to survive the suicide of their parent. Um, this is the second part of a series we're doing on how to help children. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a solo parent and also how we are keeping um, the memory of our loved one alive and how we're getting help from our community doing that. On the solo parenting, I have a couple thoughts on that. One, another widow who I've met through the group once mentioned that she calls it only parenting because you are the only one who's doing everything. And all of a sudden, what two people were doing, you are now doing alone. You're really doing more than that because the death of a parent creates a lot of just logistical work, but emotional work, psychological work, physical. it's everything, and you are the only one doing it. For me, at least, stack on top of this all of a sudden realization that nothing can happen to me. Like those really early days, I was so scared of anything happening to me because I realized they would not be able to take the death of another parent.
I should first of all give a disclaimer, which is that when my dad passed away a couple of years ago, we moved my mom here. And so we bought a new house together, like a multi-generational house with a mother-in-law suite at our house. So she has her own space, but she lives here. So I have an incredible amount of support with my mom, and it is still so hard. Like everything you said still feels so true. And we talked right away, and especially before she moved here, before Peter died, but then even after Peter died, that like it was not my expectation, and it wasn't fair to think that she could somehow now just do everything he did. Like that's not her job, and it's not frankly what Michael needs. And so I relate so much to everything you said, Pam, especially the fear part about being an only, like figuring out a will, figuring out arrangements, figuring out like how to leave my house and not be afraid in the car, or I still have yet to get on an airplane because of COVID or any of that. It brings a whole new level that is not like anything I've ever known.
One of the things that was heartbreaking for me about solo parenting was realizing that my daughter had also developed the fear that she could possibly lose me. And that was another difficult conversation. And I told her, well, I can't promise I'm going to be here forever because I'm not. None of us are. But I am healthy and I will stay for as long as I possibly can. We can be healthy together, and let's focus on that. It's hard, especially early on, learning to adjust your family to, for me, to two. You were a unit, and now as a solo parent, you're the one that is cooking all the time, cleaning. You are the key parent who is everything. And we found ways to remember Chad. I tell her at night, remember Papa loves you. Made a frame of a collage of pictures of the two of them, throughout the years, and we hung it in her room. It's kind of difficult trying to think of how do I incorporate this person who's no longer here, and he's very real for me, but for a kid who's so much younger, you want to be able to preserve those memories. I think another thing that was helpful that we'll continue doing is we'll do things like write letters to him. And we have a fire pit outside. We'll do like a campfire. And she gets really excited about the idea of we toss the letters in, and she does believe that they go up and Papa can read them.
One of the things that I decided very early after Jeff died was that I needed help. My husband had suffered the loss of his mother when he was 2 in a pretty violent accident that traumatized him and his sister, and then lost his father when he was a teenager. So I sort of knew right away what I didn't want to happen, that I didn't want people to ignore him and his life, and that he had been here. I saw what, just trying to cover up the pain had done. It had really sort of torn him up. I talked at the service, and the only way I was able to do that was that I stood up there and said, I can't talk about Jeff, but I need to talk about my kids. I need for everyone in this room to be a part of their lives. I was like, you guys are it. You're here because, you connected with him. You've got to bring that to my kids today, tomorrow. Keep showing up. I think people have taken that seriously. And I memorized the talk. I said in there, they need their dad to be part of their lives. You have to bring him. You have pieces of him that I don't have, and I need them to get those. And then about 6 months later, Jeff's birthday was on a Friday. Our anniversary was on that Saturday, and Father's Day was on that Sunday. And I knew that was going to be a rough weekend. So I had decided I was going to put together a playlist of music. And that would be, I was like, we'll listen to these songs. So I went back out to our community and said, guys, I need help. I need you to send me a song, a memory, and a picture. And so I brought my little book that I ended up putting together. We call it Play On. And all of our friends, sent these crazy pictures of, them in high school and their crazy things that they did. And they wrote out, this is the song, this is from the REM concert that we all went to together. Now we've got this playlist. I can, share it with the kids, and we listened to it that whole weekend. And, we didn't, it was a hard weekend, and they said they didn't want to just sit and talk and be sad the whole time, but it was a way to give them, the opportunity to go through this when they wanted to, but also kind of have it playing in the background. So, and they'll have this forever. So that's nice.
I think what that makes me think of is you said something like they need people to talk to them about their dad. And I relate to that so deeply. And I think like what's become clear to me is that like my son's still so small that he tells the truth, right? Whether I want him to or not sometimes. And he has told me that he wants to talk about his dad. And so, I think one story I've shared with some of the people in our group is early on, I let him sort of drive it. And right away, right after I told him, in fact, he said, Mama, I want to walk around the house and look at things that remind me of Dada. And so he sort of set this tone of really wanting to do that right away. So we do that a lot. We talk to Dad a lot. We talk about him. We look at pictures. It's something we do. And early on, I felt like maybe it was too much because it was very hard sometimes. And so I felt like maybe it was starting to go too far in remembering him. And I asked him, I said, buddy, do you feel like we're talking about Dada not enough or just right or too much? And he thought about it like really thoughtfully. And he said, Mama, I wish we were talking about Dada more. And at the time, I honestly felt like there's no way we could talk about him anymore. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. But it just reminded me that like, he's thinking about it a lot, even as a small person. And I've just been blown away like about the deep capacity we have for love, even when we're so small, and how deeply connected to his dad he is, even though he's so small. And what a gift it is when people want to talk about his dad or tell stories. And so all those stories you shared, I feel like a little jealous, but really happy that you've had those. And trying to think about ways I can institute some of those in my life.